that I remember, this all started a long time ago. I remember that ever since I was a little girl, the human ability to visually perceive things has made a prevalent impact throughout my childhood. Because of this, television and films have been two of my greatest teachers. They've entertained me. They have also taught me how to add, subtract, how to distinguish different colors, say certain words, inclusively how to kiss. They've done this all while also demonstrating universal emotions, such as happiness, sadness, affection, and fear. It also promoted values and models that weren't all representative of reality, nor were they all positive. Not all women lack intellectual acuity because of their attractiveness, nor do all women in the world dream of marrying and having children, nor do they all desire to be accepted by social rules that are established by the society they live under. And above all else, women are not a symbol of inferiority. This is not to say that before mentioned aspirations are wrong or bad, but that every woman feels, thinks, dreams, and lives in a different way. Ways not all represented in the real world too often. These role models, which you might often find humorous or irrelevant, are the lessons that I have contributed to the development of my own persona and identity. To this day, I can realize the impact they had on me, not only personally, but also in the professional level. My grandma used to blurt out the phrase during family gatherings, the words, "We are what we eat." But I would also say that we are what we see. In the consumerist world that we live in, the film industry will always find a way to give us what we want to see. But sometimes we have more to offer in regards to the reciprocated cycle of influence. Due to the consequences of different projections and the demands of audiences, a variety of genres have developed. Genres we find in movies like romantics, science fiction, mystery, horror, drama. Out of all of these, there is one genre that dominates in popularity in the box office statistics: action films. Given the demand for this genre, one would think that this would generate many job opportunities for both men and women. But the reality is quite the opposite. In 2017, Forbes magazine published a list of the highest paying actors, with Mark Wahlberg sitting atop of the list with $68 million in earning for his role in the Transformers films, which is one of the best-selling franchises of action films released. In the other spectrum, Variety had Emma Stone, who had recently won an Oscar for her lead in La La Land, with $26 million in earnings. Claudia Golden, a professor of economics at Harvard University, conducted a research regarding gender economics, and her studies show this problem is caused by difference in age, longevity of career, and primarily the feminine genre. Her studies also affirmed that the box office is not concerned for representing women of different backgrounds, as most of the films that are top grossing are films for men. Generally speaking, in this genre, women are given supporting roles where they are mostly portrayed as victims instead of strong or powerful characters. Regardless, there has also been breakthrough exceptions like Katniss Everdeen, Wonder Woman, and Beatrix Kiddo, who have represented the women in a role of power. It has been thoroughly difficult for women to develop their identity with a sense of liberty and success in film. The stereotypes of the genre haven't been the only barrier that affect women within films, but also their own identity within the pertaining culture. In particular, the Mexican woman has had to work double in order to see their own success in the American film industry. But to better understand their struggles, we have to go back and look into the origin of the Mexican woman. Before the arrival of the Spaniards in Mexico, there existed three dominant indigenous groups: the Aztecs, the Mayans, and the Incas, who were the authentic Mexican people, in which the role of the woman was completely different from the one we know right now. Besides the fact that there are scarce resources or ideas of what women were back then, due to the fact that those who narrated and documented of what we know of those days were men, women also had important relevant roles in their communities. Not only were they maids and housewives, but they participated in the construction and organization of their communities and cultural rituals. They were seen as equal. The man and the woman complemented each other. In 1519, Herman Cortes, a Spanish inquisitor, arrived to Mexico and brought along his culture, morals, and above all, the Catholic religion. And this all caused distraught within the Mexicans, and thus the integrity of women was altered. Herman's lover, La Malinche, was an interpreter. Because of her ability to speak two distinct dialects, Nahuatl and Chantal Maya, and along the time she learned to speak Spanish. She was this woman who gave birth to the first mestizo, which means an individual who is mixed race with Spaniards and Aztec. In the process of conquest, women never reached the level of intellect that they had once had prior, due to the new generations of Mexicans who developed new ideologies, like machismo, converting the Mexican woman into a stereotype, limiting her role as a civilian, turning her into a submissive role and a housewife. One example of this is the education we have received in institutions like school districts. Based on my personal experience, I can take note of how genders divide us. The girls with the girls, the boys with the boys. Our preconceived knowledge was limited because of the environment that we were exposed to. The Mexican boys had an opportunity to do more things that they showed interest in, like sports. For girls, however, if they showed interest in playing said sport, in many cases there wasn't an all-female sports team in schools. Just like this, there exists many examples of the education that would compare to the United States liberty and equality that it has taught its civilians and professionals. If this Mexico has created this machismo idealism, how can we expect other foreign countries to think of us in a positive light? This is why we are given degrading roles as prostitutes, criminals, servants, immigrants, among others that devalue our humanity as Mexican women. This today is reflected in actresses such as Elisa Gonzalez. Her role in Baby Driver 2017 had no relevance to the story whatsoever. She seemed to solely be used as an attractive visual, a perfect example of the many cases in this industry. It is hard enough to be a woman, but it is all the harder to be a Mexican woman. Not only are you fighting against the genre barrier, you're also fighting racism against your own person. However much we blame the industry for having these ideas, it is important to realize that in the end, everything comes down to the audience. We, along with those part of the industry, indulge in movies while enjoying and learning from them. This means responsibility lies in our hands. The responsibility to mindfully build women in the eyes of a child. Naomi McDougall, in a TED Talk, says, "I want to give our little boys the chance to empathize with female characters so that they can become more wholesome men. And I definitely want to give a little girl who may not have a real-life role model the chance to watch movies and see women doing everything they dream of achieving."